All right, counsel, any corrections to the assessment?
Okay.
Mr. Harrison?
I do not.
Allocution then?
I think the assessment, it's odd because it uses a lot of the same language that I would employ in my discussions about this. It's concerning that he was driving in that condition, but according to a lot of the indicators, he doesn't appear to have a serious problem. Well, okay. If you look again in other sections of the report, it shows that he's hitting some of the points. He's getting advanced toward some form of, I guess, a higher level problem. I think, and I've discussed it with Mr. Rosen, is that, and I hesitate to use the term, okay? I hesitate to say recreational meth use, because if there's one thing that I know, or I have been repeatedly given proof of in doing this job, is that no one can do meth recreationally. It very quickly becomes a habit and a lifestyle, and is very ruinous to people having any progress toward being an actual adult and productive member of society. The problem is, I don't see that. I don't see those other negative side effects when I look at Will. I don't know how to say that without sounding too much like a used car salesman, because you're talking about a guy who does have some recent criminal history. And you could look at that recent criminal history and make out a guy who's living on the edge, who's funding a habit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that's the case, despite that appearance. I've gotten to know Will a little bit. I've always found him to be polite. I've always found him to have an intellect about him that I normally don't spot or don't identify with other people that are in his situation. I just was teasing him not 10 minutes ago about what's wrong with you. You want to think about everything. And I meant it as a joke because I find him to have sort of an analytical, I may not always agree with it, but he has sort of an analytical process that at least shows me that he's weighing things in an appropriate way. So do I think he has a serious drug problem? I don't. I am concerned, as is the court, no doubt, that he found himself at the age of 30 resorting to drugs as a result of a traumatic event in his life, and you know the rest of the story. So there is, he could benefit from some conversation about the things that we normally associate with addictive behavior, such as coping skills and that sort of thing. I'm actually torn here because I don't think this warrants any large reaction. I think I would frankly treat it as if it was a first-time OWI, in that it involved a mistake, someone who would mistakenly consume too much alcohol to be fit for driving an automobile. Because I think the underlying situation here is very similar to someone who does that. I realize that the statute doesn't make a huge distinction, but if there is a distinction, it's that the statute, the law, the courts tend to treat people driving under the influence of controlled substance as something other than a mistaken opportunity that often presents itself in the face of a drunk driving arrest. I trust the discretion of the court to fashion a sentence that's appropriate here. I do believe a short period of probation would benefit him. I know his record on probation has not been fantastic, but I think he's grown up too. He's 30 years old now. And I guess I would conclude my remarks at that, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carnes?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to start with the negatives here. He was driving the wrong way on the freeway. That's extremely dangerous. His methamphetamine level was over 300 nanograms per milliliter. I'm used to seeing exact numbers there. Over to me means that's a really high level. Presumably that's where the Michigan State Police Laboratory stops measuring. And also, the assessment is a severe substance use disorder for amphetamine type. The defendant is facing a big issue with that, and he's endangering the public by not dealing with that issue here. Now I'll switch to the positive. I think Mr. Rosen was the only successful person on our office's drug diversion program, where he did the rehab, was on probation for 2 years and successfully completed it. He's the only person I can think of who did that. And he successfully completed that in July. His mom died the first week of August. We have this behavior 3 weeks later, and then we have no issues on bond. So because of those positives, I think 24 months probation is appropriate despite how risky his behavior was at this time, despite how dangerous it was to society. I do think the maximum period of probation is appropriate. I ask the court to propose that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rosen, you have the right to address the court prior to sentencing. Is there anything you'd like me to know?
Yes, Your Honor. I just want to apologize for even being here again. I swore I would never come back, and this was just an honest mistake. You know, I had a severe, I don't know how to put it, like when my mom passed away, I didn't plan on to relapse, to be honest. It just, one thing happened, you know, and I ended up relapsing, and I'm kicking myself in the butt for it.
Sure. So, Mr. Carnes had brought out how successful you were with the diversion program. Is this the first relapse you've had?
Yes.
And
Your Honor, I probably wanted to relapse. My mom would have never passed away.
yeah. Well,
She was a big helping person tonight.
and it sounds like, was it kind of unexpected?
Yes, yep.
Well, and honestly, you know, that's not uncommon when it comes to relapses. There's a big triggering event and you turn to what you know, and that's what you knew. Now, I kind of mentioned this earlier today, and I'm going to mention it again. These assessments are always kind of eye-opening for me because it gives insight as to how things progress. And I think, and this is not a good prize to win, but I think for me, you won the prize of the youngest person I'd ever seen to start using marijuana, and that's at age 8.
Yes, Your Honor.
How did that happen?
I lived in a small town, and there wasn't nothing really to do other than try to do what the big kids were doing.
And then what I usually see, despite what a lot of people say, but my experience tells me that that's usually the starter point. You start with marijuana and then you progress to other substances. You ended up progressing to methamphetamine, is that correct? So when you were sober last time, was that, what did you do for recovery?
Basically, I hung out with my kids. I still see my kids every other day. I hung out with good, positive people that weren't being, getting high per se.
Uh-huh.
I just worked like I'm working now. I've got a full-time job. Just stay at home. And I have my medical marijuana card, so.
Did you do any type of rehab?
I did outpatient rehab.
Okay, through like Catholic Human
Yes,
Services?
Catholic Human Services, and I was in counseling at Great Lakes Family Care.
All right. Did your counseling eventually stop?
Yes, after my probation was done, it ended. I lost my Medicaid, so,
Okay,
which I now have back.
well, that's good. Well, Mr. Carnes is right. This was very dangerous behavior. Going the wrong way on the expressway. I don't know what time of day or night it was, but thankfully you didn't kill anybody. And what I read in the assessment is that you were blacked out and you were under the influence of methamphetamine and THC. So given that you score a high substance use disorder for amphetamine, given that you've already gone through rehab once, and the riskiness of this behavior, I think it is appropriate to put you on a period of probation. And what I'm hoping to get out of this is that you relearn the tools and just kind of a refresher on everything. Mr. Carnes requested 24 months probation. I think that's appropriate in this case, just given as to how high you test. But this type of offense does allow you to be released at the halfway mark if you've done everything we've asked you to do and you haven't had any violations or violations within a certain amount of time. So you are eligible for early release. But during the time that you're on probation, you're not to violate any law. Report is ordered, not leave the state without consent of your probation officer, and keep your contact and employment information current. I want you to attend the alcohol highway safety education class and victim impact panel. I realize alcohol isn't really your issue, but I'm still going to order no alcohol.
Okay.
And no illegal controlled substances. Normally I would order recreational marijuana, but you have your marijuana card, correct? So that's not going to do any good, but you will be subject to testing for other substances, including the alcohol. I also want you to follow the substance use assessment recommendations. This is a first offense, so I can't order you to recovery, but I'm going to highly suggest that you start NA classes or AA classes, whatever you think is going to be appropriate. Any counseling that your probation officer feels is appropriate, including counseling for drugs and alcohol, and any other additional programming she feels is necessary. There is a $75 Crime Victims' Rights Fund fee, $50 state minimum fee, $150 fine, $150 court costs, $150 attorney fee. Mr. Carnes, any reimbursements requested?
Yes, Your Honor, it's $100 to the prosecutor's office and $300 to Michigan State Police.
Mr. Rosen, in OWI cases, the government and the prosecution is allowed to recoup a portion of the expense for prosecuting you. So that's what that $100 is for, and the $300 would be to reimburse the state police for the blood draw that was taken. I'm only going to charge you for 12 months of probation, because that's the halfway mark, which is $360. If you end up staying longer than the halfway mark, you'll be required to pay that monthly fee. There's 1 day jail with 1 day credit. Now, because I have sentenced you to a term of incarceration, even though it's time served, you do have the right to appeal that decision. If you decided that you wanted to appeal it and could not afford an attorney to assist you, you have 14 days from today's date to request the appointment of an attorney. Also, any balance that remains unpaid for more than 56 days will have a 20% penalty assessed to that. Mr. Carnes, anything I've missed in a judgment of sentence?
Thank you.
Mr. Harrison?
I can't think of anything, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Rawson, good luck.
Thank you.
Now, before you run away, I was handed a stipulation to adjourn the prelim, and I was told you wanted to go on the record with that.
Your Honor, I just wanted to, just so I can know whether we need to get some things out. If we can answer to that, I just appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so I've signed the step.
Okay.
Great.
Is there not, there's not a need to go on the record with it?
No.
Okay.
I had Mr. Rawson sign it, so if you had any issues.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. You can go out the front window where you checked in, make a payment if you're able to, and then go down and get signed up for probation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Court next calls the people of the state of Michigan versus Tyler Swing.